Gentlemen, how we doing?
Fired up!
Fired up?
Fired up.
I can feel it. I can see it. Sure is good to be here at the Men of Nehemiah today and to be able to speak to you guys. And for everyone who is watching and listening online and all the platforms across the world, we'll have the link to Men of Nehemiah in the description below. So Into the Rock highly endorses this group of changing males into men. Changing males into men. And that is our crisis today, is the missing man. We got a lot of males, but we don't have many men. And I'm seeing it firsthand that right before my eyes, men being created, reborn, redemption, and accepting the role as the way God defines the role of a man, not the world, right? And so I'm really excited to be a part of this. So make sure you click on and subscribe and share this out to everybody so we can get the word out of how great Men of Nehemiah is. So recently we've had a family member that has been tangled up in the world of addiction and the famous word relapse. Relapse. We hear that a lot in recovery. But relapse happens to everyone because everyone is an addict. Everyone is. What is addiction? Let me tell you what addiction is. Addiction is the street name for spiritual stronghold, false idols. That's what addiction is. It's a street name. Addiction is a person, place, thing, and here's the scary one, gentlemen, or a thought that becomes my source. That becomes my source. So that can be anything visible, because my entire life I was chasing visible things to try to fix my invisible problems. Can you relate to that? And so for us, it was everything, and drugs and alcohol have a huge stigma with it because of our behaviors are so visible and bizarre, and our consequences are so visible and bizarre. An overeater, I've never done time with an overeater. I've never done time with a shopping addict or someone who's addicted to social media, their phone, pornography, sex, gluttony, right? So we're all addicts. But thank God my consequences were so severe that I was stripped to my knees to realize that God was all I had because He was all I need. Amen. He was all I needed because He was all I had. I said that wrong. God was all I needed because He was all I had at that time while being incarcerated after 27 mugshots. And as a result of the spiritual awakening, I turned my life over to Christ, and it's never been the same since. I was reborn, okay? But once I become reborn, I can't go run out and start churches and rehab centers and be a leader in the community until I can answer the question, why do I do the things I do? And I see people in this community in the Christian world, I see people in the community of the recovery world who constantly relapse, and I recognize it. Why do I recognize it? Because I did it. I recognize these behaviors because I did it. So today, I am going to take an opportunity, a situation that has just recently happened, and I called Melinda, and I said, I want to come speak to the men about relapse. What is it? Why do we do it? Who in here has relapsed? Right. And we don't know why, right? We're locked up, had needles in our arm. It's like, how did I get here? How did I get here? And when I recently visited this family member, beating himself up, shame. How'd this happen? The noise was going. The noise was going. You know what I told them? I said, you got a lot of recovery. You just got a new date. That's it. Come on. We got you. We got you. And then I started processing, because today, gentlemen, I look at life through God's perspective, not the world's. My mission is not to influence others or to be popular or to be a celebrity. God's not interested in that. He wants servants. I want to help you men through my experiences to look at life today through God's perspective, not the world's. Not the world's. Because the world's perspective got me locked up. The gas of the world. Can you relate to when we get released and man, we are tight, never doing this again. And we get out, the gas of the world hits you, right? You're back in the noise. We get right back in the noise and we relapse. Why? I got answers. I got answers. When we relapse and we put that bottle to our mouth, that needle to our arm, that pipe to our mouth, the relapse actually happens way before we use. It's the behaviors. So we're going to walk through the 12 steps. I'm sharing with you what works for me. I'm sharing with you that is keeping me clean and sober today. The thought of drinking and drugging has never entered my mind. The mental obsession has been removed. I never, ever, ever want to forget May 29th, 2017, because the pain was that bad. And when I finally surrendered and I got really honest and I said, I don't know why I'm doing the things I'm doing, and I'm willing to go to any length to do it, Judge. I don't care where you put me. Because when I'm explaining, I'm lying. When I'm explaining, I'm lying. So we're going to start with step 1 real quick. We admitted that we were powerless over alcohol and drugs and that our life has become completely unmanageable. The spiritual principle behind that is honesty. And these 12 steps are biblical principles. Step 1, it's honesty. Now, I admitted that, step 1, and I was still getting drunk and high. But the true honesty for me was to simply say the words that we don't want to say. I don't know. Put that in your vocabulary. It's okay to say that. I don't know why I'm doing this. That's what we admit. That's real honesty. Because our whole life, we've been watering the leaves on the tree, wondering why the tree is dying. We're not getting to the root. We're going to get to the root. Now, you cannot do this alone. You have to have a male mentor or sponsor to walk you through these steps that can relate to you. Because when we do this alone, we're going back to prison. We're going to drink and use. We're going to relapse. Step 2, came to believe there's a power greater than ourselves to restore us to sanity. That's hope. That's hope. We start feeling hope. When you get in here and it's a connection and it's a community, and when y'all are sharing, and as I'm sharing here, I can see it already, because when I share things, and I'm not speaking, the Spirit's speaking. If I speak, we're going to penitentiary. The Spirit's speaking, and that's called, we're connected. I feel safe. And this is what this looks like, this step, right here. When someone is sharing and being brutally honest, transparent, what happens in the room? Everybody's doing this. You see that? Everybody's doing that. That's a power greater than ourselves to restore us to sanity. What is insanity? The definition. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results, right? That's not the definition. That is not the definition. That's the dictionary definition. Let me give you my definition. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over, knowing what the result's going to be. Knowing this ain't going to end up good. Right? That's insanity. This applies to everyone. 3. No, go back. Now we feel some hope. We're detoxing, we're connecting with a group, and we've got this feeling of hope. It feels good. It's finally this feeling that we've been trying to get with alcohol and drugs. Sex, pornography, gambling, work, golf, all this stuff, right? Shopping. all this stuff that we've been trying to get, now we got some real hope. And this is very dangerous. When we start feeling that hope, we start smelling ourselves. We start telling ourselves, you know what? I got this. And we start this really good feeling. And it even gets better because we go to step 3 and we make a decision to turn our will and life over to the care of God as we understand Him. And in this room, our God of our understanding is Jesus Christ. Amen? Amen. Okay, we got it. It's really happened. It's really happened. Now we feel even better. And we skip over 4 through 11 and go straight to 12. Having had a spiritual awakening, we spread this message to others. We go start nonprofits. We go open up treatment centers. We become national motivational speakers. We're leaders in our church and in our community. And this whole topic that I'm talking about goes to everyone out there for the new believer. They have accepted this, and now I got this. And what happens is all of our resentments and all of our anger have been pushed down. We haven't addressed them. So we go out there and we start saving the world. I call it the step 1, 2, 3, 12 program. And we're out there and we're saving the world, and it feels good, but then someone says something about us. Someone will post on a show, you're a fake, okay? And it gets in our head. We get in fear. And if we don't do anything with the feeling of fear, it turns into a resentment. And if we don't do anything with the feeling of resentment, then it turns into anger. And if we don't do anything with the feeling of anger, it turns into rage. If we don't do anything with the feeling of rage, it turns into isolation. And if we don't do anything with the feeling of isolation, it turns into paranoia. As believers. But we're smelling ourselves. And we have no tools on how to process fear. Prayer, yes. Okay? But God has given it to us. So what do? We go to step 4. The reason why we do step 4, it's a moral inventory on ourselves. And because we've done step 3 correctly, have you ever heard anybody said the dreaded 4th step? Oh, I got to do a 4th step. All right? You said that? You got the wrong God. Really. You got to get right with Christ, because why would Christ take you into a moral inventory to make you feel bad? No way. No way. We run into step 4 to take an inventory. We are excited, ready, to see what you're good at. To see what you're good at. Because a lot of our character defects are our greatest assets. Let me give you an example. My biggest character defect was this mouthpiece. I could out-spitbox anybody. I mean, I won more fist fights without throwing a punch. Okay? I closed a lot of big real estate deals. Hustle. Heard the word hustle? Got that hustle on? That was my biggest character defect. But as a result of working all the steps in order with a sponsor, okay, I realized that character defect became my greatest asset. Because what comes out of this mouth comes from there, not here. And if it comes from here, I recognize it. If it comes from here, I recognize it. And what is that? Relapse behavior. Okay? And after I do step 4, guess what happens as a result of that? That feeling after 1, 2, and 3, my faith gets bigger. Wow, that was easy. I got this all out. I got this all out and telling it to another man. And guess what? He did it too. He did it too. But we also make a list of resentments. And number 1 on that list of resentments, you put your name. That's the first one. When we have a resentment, it's because we played a role in it. If I loan you $5 and you don't pay me back and I get resentful, the role I played in it was I loaned them $5. I made the decision to do it. I played a role in it. What about my story? My grandfather sexually abused me for years. He was a cop. Abused me. I played a role in that? I did. I played a huge role in that. And let me tell you what it is. I chose to hold on to the resentment. Matthew 6:14-15 says, when you forgive the ones who have hurt you, harmed you, when you forgive those, Matthew 6:15 says, I'll bless your game. Because when we release that, God can use us to move towards our destiny. Because if we don't, He can't use me. It blocks me from God. Because if He were to bless me, I would stuff the resentment down like bubble gum, chew the sugar out of it, and there's the resentment. That's not a loving God. But when I did that, and in my story, I did that, you know what happened? They came over the speaker, and literally, the first time ever, I was set free. They said, you're free. 2 years early. It was a technicality, paperwork error. No, it wasn't. God set the bond. He gave Jesus the key, and He put it in the lock and opened it up, and it says, go walk. And here I am. Never, ever, ever. When I was locked up, I didn't have a business plan. This was never in my cards. Sometimes it still isn't. But this is what He told me to do. So we find out our resentments. Now, some people say, I don't have any resentments. After step 1, 2, and 3, I found the Lord. You did. I believe that. I don't have any resentments. Okay? Let me ask you this. I want you to make a list of everyone who owes you an apology. Oh, I can do that. And they get done. The list is this long. And I said, there's your resentment list. If you think someone owes you an apology, that means we have a resentment towards them. And until we work through that, we can't be free all the way. We have nothing to give anybody until we work this. You can be a believer in Christ and try to be a leader. For me, I don't have anything to give anybody because I can't provide wise counsel on how to help you with anger and resentment because I haven't done it myself. As a result of forgiving my grandfather, I went to an event like this. Before I got here, I went to the men's bathroom. There was 2 stalls, urinals on the wall. I'm 4 or 5 years sober. There's a guy in this wall urinal. This one's empty. And in the stall with the door shut, there's someone in there. And guess what? I'm standing there. And I have to wait for that guy to get out of there. I've been doing this my whole life with other symptoms to go in there because I can't stand next to another man. That's a symptom of sexual abuse. So when I came out, the board just like this. I didn't know what to talk about. I said, guys, give me the words to say. So I drew the bathroom. I told that story. 2 guys sitting just like this, they were crying. This guy here, not you, but sitting in this chair, came up to me and hugged me afterwards. He goes, you just saved my life. You just gave me relief. You just spoke for me. I encountered the same thing. I didn't think anybody else felt that way. And as I was driving home, I'm processing, because remember, I'm looking at life through God's perspective, not mine. All right? I'm like, wow. God's using my grandfather to speak through me, to help these men to feel safe and come out and go, thank you for sharing that. I couldn't have done that if I was still resentful at him and hadn't forgiven him. That's Matthew 6:14-15. Because I did that, God blessed my game. It gets better. 2 months later, my email is blowing up. I'm talking thousands. I get a lot, but it was like cranking up. Boom, 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 from all over the country. We love your podcast. We love your show. We love it. You're helping us. You're helping so many people in the tank. In the tank? Little did I know that guy right there, his father, was the head guy of Securus. Y'all know what Securus is? All right? Government telecommunication. They do all the telecommunication for the Pentagon, White House, FBI, all the police departments, all the jails. Communication in and out. They're recording you. Okay? And when he saw that and the transformation in his son, he put him to the rock on every single tablet in every jail, in every prison, as a result of me accepting my role in this situation that the world wants to condemn. All right? What he did was wrong, but the world wants to condemn, but because we start looking at everything through a different perspective, God's perspective and not the world's, look what's happening. As a result of this, accepting my role in it. Now, you see what's happening here now? My story's getting bigger and bigger. My faith is getting bigger and bigger. I went from hope to faith, okay, to courage. Okay, we got something now, so we go to 5, and we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being. That's when we talk to our sponsor, and that's repent, confess, and get it all out. My story's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I go to 6, and we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Let's talk about defects of character. This is the main thing I want to talk about. Lying, white lying, stealing, procrastination, laziness. All these things. Tell me more. What else? Manipulation. Control. No, it's good. Yeah.
Rejection.
Yeah. Fear. Oh, right.
Judgmental.
Yeah.
Pride.
Right. What about cussing? Right? Not condemning, maybe convicting. I have a story about that. But these things, what about overeating? Locked up, you're eating soups like a madman. You know why we're so hungry when we're locked up? What do we talk about when we're in prison? What do we always talk about in prison? The main conversation in prison is what? Food. Yeah. What do you got? We didn't do that in the world. But food is the number one topic of conversation, and food is currency. You put $500 cash on the floor and 2 honey buns, that $500 ain't worth nothing because we can't do anything with it. Isn't that amazing? I look at sweet and low differently today. I see a sweet and low package, and I'm grateful. I'll never forget, I never had money in my books. Did you ever think, anybody ask for a shot of coffee anymore? Why? You get whatever you want. But a shot of coffee, when you're locked up, I got you, man. Awesome. Envelope, you got any more toilet paper? You want to get in gratitude, go back and start thinking that way. Remember that? I don't ever forget that. I'm grateful for that. It's reminding. And you're talking about a guy who had a high net worth and owned a company. That's what it took for me to do that. All these character defects, recognizing it. Let me tell you a story about that. I'm in the chow line. I'm in the chow line, and this is my story, and y'all can watch it, but I was reading to prisoners. I was reading to my cellies. I was reading in my tank because no one could read or write in this one tank. All the other tanks I've been in, this tank, for some reason, no one can read or write because that's where God put me. So when I was reading to them and writing, that's how I became a believer, because there was a book that was in there, a white book called Detours by Dr. Tony Evans. Y'all know who he is? Yeah. Okay. He's the man. He's a diesel. I had no clue who he was. And as I was reading this book about the story of Joseph, it was white words, it was black words on white paper, because my cellie asked me to read to him. 75-year-old man doing life. He couldn't read or write. And I read to him. And for the first time in my life, I slowed down. I was doing easy time. I didn't know what was happening. 4 days went by, I had no clue why I was feeling such ease and comfort. And I realized that today is for the first time I was serving someone else expecting nothing in return. Serving. And then I zoomed into the tank, the entire tank, and everybody came together. I wasn't this jailhouse preacher, guys. I was staying in my lane. They just came up to me. I was in the chow line. The tank had changed, and get my food. I come back, I eat, and I'm sitting on my bunk. I had a bottom bunk, finally. Sitting on my bottom bunk, and these 3 guys come up to me, and my name was Rabbit. They called me Rabbit, all right? They came up to me and said, "Hey, Rabbit, we just want to apologize. We disrespected you." I said, "What are you talking about?" They said, "Man, we were in line in front of you, and we were just cussing like crazy. We disrespected you." They walked away, and I'm like, are they talking about? And it took me a while. The more and more I thought about it, was I hadn't been cussing. I hadn't been cussing. Because in step 7, I humbly asked God to remove my shortcomings. I asked him to remove my shortcomings. Today, a girl walks by, I don't see it. I don't see it. Girl walks by, gentleman, okay, and you're seeing that, and you want that for selfish reasons, you are in full-blown relapse. You're not just being, I'm a man, that's just the way no, you're in relapse. Because you're searching a visible thing to try to fix your invisible problem for my selfish needs. That's when we know we're growing. And if you feel that way and enjoying that thought, call your sponsor. Where is this coming from? Guys, men, we have to take it that seriously, right? Or you'll have 11 years clean and sober and relapse and not know why. Because these little ants, it's not the elephants tearing up the landscape that bother us, it's the ants. It's these little things. Dang, M2, give me a break. Let me tell you something, man. When my eyes wake up in the morning, I'm in full-blown relapse. Full-blown relapse. But when I stay connected to the Word, my routine, Christ. Am I in the Word every day? Do I wake up in the morning, hit my knees and pray to God and open the Bible and read a verse every morning? I don't. I want to. I don't. Why? There are mornings I wake up and I'll get right on my phone. I'm like, whoa. I catch myself. I recognize it. See, before I didn't recognize it. And I recognize it and I do my morning routine. Josh can attest to this. I go into my living room and I turn on Dr. Tony Evans, and I watch a 20-minute video by him every morning. I don't miss one. I even watch it at night. I'll even send it to him. Hey, check out what your family member's doing. Maybe you ought to listen to them. You know? It works for me. Because what happens is we get down. Now remember, we haven't made amends or said we're sorry yet. Our sorries are over. Right? Because we used to do step 9 first. That's where we say we're sorry, make amends. I'm sorry, I'll never drink again. We even put our hand on the Bible, just let me back in, right? We're drinking the next day. Step 9 comes down because when we make amends to the ones we have harmed, we're doing it for us, and we ask them, how can I make it right? If they say, well, why did you drink and do drugs? You have an answer. Because I did not know how to process fear. And what is the solution to fear? There is a right answer, by the way. There's a right answer, and the answer, so what is the solution to fear? It's one word. No.
Courage.
No. 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 What'd you say? What? No. What is the solution to fear? When I'm in fear, all right, I'm going to give you the answer. Okay? Because we're complicated people, right? The answer, the solution to fear is to talk about it. That's the answer. We got God. We got to talk about it. We got to get deep. We got to get away from God is good, God is great, all the time. Those don't work. We talk about it and let God speak through godly men to you. All right? Let me give you an example. What's your name?
Andrew.
You're my sponsor. All right? You solid. Okay? I call you up. Something that's just, Andrew, what's up? I need to talk to you. I'm in fear. I texted my girl, I love you, and she hasn't texted me back. That's not a big deal, is it? Us men, we would never do that, right? But we're in fear because if I don't do anything, it goes to resentment, anger, rage, isolation, paranoia, and we're in our head that our girls left us and she's with another guy, and we're never going to see her again, right? Okay. You know what he would tell me? He said, I hear you. I can relate. But you just said, I love you. You didn't ask her a question. She didn't have to respond. And then when I hang up with my sponsor, 2 hours later, she responds, I love you so much. I am so sorry. My phone was dead. I just plugged it back in. Well, I'm in jail with needles in my arm. Can you come bond me out? Tripping, right? So when we get into fear about anything, especially we talk about it. And what happens is a conversation happens, and it builds bigger and bigger with your sponsor, and it builds your story. So after we do that, in order to stay away from the relapse behaviors and recognizing it, in step 10, we continue to take personal inventory, and when we are wrong, promptly admit it. It's just a daily inventory. I do this throughout the day when we were wrong. Real simple. Josh texts me. I didn't ghost him. I got busy. Hadn't replied to him in 2 days. I called him up. I made amends to him. Dude, my bad. I didn't get back to you. Okay? No big deal. But I made my amends. I saw his text. I thought about it. I needed to respond, but I kept doing a character defect called what? Procrastination. He'll understand. He's my homeboy. So I called him. I made it right. And here's the one. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God. Prayer. Right? That's where when we're doing that, when we are doing that, we are tight with God. We're like this with God. Because relapse happened when I stopped doing that. When I start getting disconnected from these men, you, and I stop doing what I'm doing right now, and I stop going to church support group meetings, right? When I do that and I get disconnected and this gap comes in this gap right here, what's in this gap? Chaos, confusion, consequences. And if I don't work these steps and this gap happens and I recognize it, you'll recognize it if you do. Whoa, I got to get reconnected right now. Close that gap up. That's as a result of working 4 through 10. So these people, like me, we do 1, 2, and 3, and we think we're cured. And we relapse. So I want to challenge you to, what is your character defects? Let me share with mine. Okay? Every once in a while, I'll slip. I'll drop an F-bomb at home. Right? And it hits me. That's not who I am. What's going on? And every time it's fear. I talked to my sponsor driving over here. You know, it's fear. It's fear. Thank God we have a program because people won't talk about fear that are addicted to the internet. It's fear. And as a result of this and this connection, and you finish these steps, at step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we go spread the message. Now you got something to give away. Now you got something to give away. The first day you accept Christ, and it's real, and it really is, there's nothing to give away yet. People see it, but they once you grow, and you've cleaned house with the Lord, now you got something to give away. Now you can help someone. Somebody calls you and says, man, I'm twisted off right now. I'm twisted off. I got you. And you have solutions. I drank. Really? Let's walk through this. It started way back. How do you know if you're doing this program right? How do you know if you're doing this program right after working all 12 steps? I have an answer for you. Your phone's ringing. People want you to talk. People want to hear from you. Because there's a lot of people, a lot of men out there that are praying, God, please please make this go away. I don't ever want to feel this way again. Ever. You think God's going to send a guy who's only done step 1, 2, and 3? You think he's going to use that to go spread his message? So when my phone's not ringing and people aren't asking me to do stuff, and I've learned looking at life through God's perspective today, I got my feelings. I talked to my sponsor. Guess what? I hadn't talked to him in 3 days. I was into self. Pour me, pour me. Pour me a drink. Right? Yeah. I was into myself. I was thinking about me. Me. And when I was doing that, guess what God did? He cut the line. He says, I got people, they really want help. I'm not sending them your way, M2. And that's what I recognized. So when I'm in the middle, on the beam, doing this deal, and so when that happens, I get re-engaged. And guess what that gap is like now in my life today? About that big. Because I recognize it immediately. Recognize it. If I have a thought that I want to share with someone, Melinda, I have an idea, it's like, hey, Melinda, I got this deal working and I'm thinking this, as opposed to saying, hey, I got a chance to speak at this deal. What do you think about it? But then I start thinking, hey, Melinda, I can speak at this deal. There's going to be 100,000 people there. They're going to do this and woo, woo, woo. And I'm doing that in my head, and I start believing it. I don't know who's going to be there. As a matter of fact, they haven't called me yet. That's relapse behavior, and I catch it. Why am I doing that? I'm out in the world. I'm in here. I'm not up there. Men, I do it. I still do it, but I recognize it. Any questions?